This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
All right. Good afternoon. Today is September 12th, and this is the meeting of the Ad Hoc Senior Center Feasibility Committee, and we are obviously being recorded. So welcome, everyone. We don't have anybody here from the public, but the meeting is being called to order at 12:04. Okay. And first thing on the agenda, just real quick, is everyone had a chance to take a look at the minutes, or actually 2 minutes, I think, August and September.
Oh, I didn't see that.
No, the August one came out before, and Audrey sent out the September over the weekend. So we never got a chance at the last meeting because we had, we had the architects and the design firms in, so we didn't do the last one. But I don't believe we have, unless I'm wrong. I didn't believe that we had done August yet. Do you want me to bring up August minutes as everybody, or do you need to?
No, it's okay.
Okay. Do we have a motion for August and September minutes?
Oh, I have a comment on September.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I thought you were only talking about August.
Oh, no. Let's start with August then. Let's start with August. Do we have a motion to approve the meeting minutes from August?
I make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from August.
Libby approves. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. I'm just going to go down the list for an A or yes or whatever. To approve, Libby?
Aye.
Darcy?
I wasn't there, but I approve the minutes.
Okay.
That's right.
Audrey? You approve your minutes? Audrey?
Aye.
Okay. Rini?
Aye.
Andrew?
Aye.
And Janet, aye. Okay, so let me bring up the other minutes real quick for September. So maybe we can go to where they're a little bit off the page. So sorry about that. Where was your comment?
Oh, it was a comment. Where is the architect Chris Wanty? Which office? I didn't think it was Framingham.
Yeah, that was another point.
Page 3.
Pittsfield, I think, isn't it?
I thought he was actually in the Connecticut office.
Yeah,
Yeah,
was it Farmington, Connecticut?
Okay.
Yeah. They have
So it should
another
be Farmington, not Framingham.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
Farmington, Connecticut. Yeah,
The third page.
I'm getting there. Sorry, I was on the wrong one.
Yep.
Yeah, that was, I thought, the same Farmington and then just put Connecticut. To be
So
clear.
it's not Framingham. Yeah, it's Farmington, Connecticut. Yep. But you did a great job, Audrey, capturing so much information.
It was a busy meeting.
So that's a PDF. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a PDF. So
That's okay. So Farmington
yes.
Yeah.
and Connecticut. All right, I've got it. Thank you.
Okay.
I just have one question on page 2, where it says, what are the roadblocks to saying on schedule? It's kind of in the middle of the page there before the bullets.
Yep.
I just need clarification of what was intended by unexpected participants can happen. I wasn't sure what that means.
What I remember, if you want me to explain why I captured this, is evidently there were somebody showed up to one of their focus groups that they didn't expect to show up and brought a whole different avenue of questions that they weren't really ready for.
Mm-hmm.
Not that they couldn't handle it or didn't handle it, but something like that could put a schedule behind a little bit.
Okay.
Is it worth retaining in the minutes, or should I take it out because it just simply adds confusion?
I just didn't know what exactly it meant.
Yeah, it might be worded differently than participants.
And maybe even unexpected questions from unknown, from new participants or something can happen. Does that make sense to everybody, or?
Yeah, just something that's a little bit more descriptive about it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was that kind of when the group was giving them the primary people making decisions that they added in another deciding group, not just somebody asking questions. It was truly another deciding group.
Okay. So don't use my words then. So how would you phrase it then, Darcy? Do you have a recommendation?
They added another group of principals involved in the decision making.
At a later date,
I'm not quite sure how to word that.
Does that make sense? Can you spin that, Audrey, or wordsmith that?
Hold on.
Yep.
All right, how about unexpected principles in the decision-making can slow the schedule down?
Yeah.
What was Jen looking for? Oh. Yeah.
Okay.
Smart.
When I release revised minutes, because we've had very few, do I actually put revision 1?
You can just what we've done, and maybe somebody else has done it differently, is just make the revision and we'll make a motion to approve it as our agreed.
As amended.
Okay.
So the motion would change to, do we have somebody to have a motion to approve the minutes as changed?
I make a motion to approve them as amended.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. So we'll go down the line again. Libby,
Aye.
Darcy,
Aye.
Audrey,
Aye.
Greenie,
Aye.
Janet, or Andrew, sorry.
Aye.
Janet, aye. Okay. And welcome, Joan. Welcome. All right. So that was good. So now, again, as I kind of maybe said earlier on the questions, we gave the references until Sunday to respond because it was a very tight window anyway. So thank you everyone for being patient and trying to get to review these prior to our meeting in just a couple of hours time. So let me just do, okay. So does everybody see the references?
Mhm.
Is that up on the screen? Okay. So I don't know if you, we want to open to discussion. Has everybody had a chance to kind of go through it? Is there anybody that has any comments? I mean, as we would expect, people don't usually reference people that might have had a negative experience. So, but it's good to know and confirm, in my opinion, that they have done what they have presented to us, which is great. Any other thoughts or comments in general about the references? I because obviously gave us a whole number of references. EDM had given us 3. And so we heard back from all 3, and we heard back from, I think, 7 of the 8 people that Andrew had reached out to for Abacus. So
Did anybody, Andrew, did you talk to them?
I
I
talked with one gentleman. His name is Fritz. He
okay, yeah. Okay.
from
he
Orleans.
preferred to give the recommendation over the phone. Just yeah, he gave a very positive recommendation over the phone.
Okay.
And I think that we decided it would be more accurate to have them respond in person than to interpret their answers in a verbal discussion. But there's pros and cons, and it was such a tight time frame. So
I thought it was nice on one of them that they actually mentioned, and I don't remember which reference it was, that even after the project was done, they came back and revisited to see how it was.
Okay, good.
I think it was an EDM.
Yeah, I think Hamden mentioned because it hadn't moved forward, but they keep checking back in or something to them.
No, it was actually on a completed one, so maybe it happened a couple of times.
Yeah,
Okay.
remember EDM said during their presentation that they actually had an event there?
Right. Both Hadley and South Hadley, I think EDM said that they had gone back and visited the locations afterwards. So
Just one quick question, I think is probably a typo, but the town of Air, on number 6, where it had asked if there were any issues or concerns, it said, I would foresee this being a problem. I'm assuming it should say wouldn't.
Yeah, I saw that too.
So it's Air. Which number is Air?
Number 4.
Number 4. Okay.
And it's number 6. The answer to number 6.
I would foresee this being a problem, yeah.
Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you to Janet and Andrew for pulling this all together so quickly. This is like an incredible response in a short amount of time during a holiday week. So thank you all very much for doing that. It seems to me that we have 2 really good firms here. I think their references are great. I think their presentations were great. And yeah, we have a tough decision to make.
Yeah. I did like the fact that I think that one of them was very focused on Western Mass with their references.
I think that's because Abacus has been building more in outside of Western Mass, but
yeah. But I mean, they did mention their Holyoke project, so.
yeah. I like that Abacus also, one of the references made a point of saying that their presentation, I think it was referenced twice, their presentation swayed voters.
I felt that they, in their interviews, that they covered that a little bit better about their being involved in presentations to select board and, the community.
This is Abacus, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just think the people that presented are very senior and very seasoned, and they also have played roles in their own municipal cities and towns, and I think they're familiar with the municipalities.
Thoughts from others? It sounded
It's a tough decision.
It is a tough decision. I liked the expansion on the attention to detail that Lifespan gave us when designing a senior center. We didn't really get that from Abacus, but maybe we didn't need it at the time.
The only thing.
Sorry, Andrew, go ahead.
Okay. Sorry about that. The only thing that I will say that remains a concern for me is Lifespan's, how exactly that working relationship is going to work. That was a big question mark for me. Even after they had answered the question in the interview, I think I left with a bit more questions than answers with that one. But obviously, we have 2 really great firms, and I'm sure that whatever we've narrowed it down to, whomever gets the project is going to do a great job for us. So,
Andrew, is your concern that they're coming out here for the initial part, but might not be available to come in person because they're remote or further away?
Yeah, I mean, well, there's just a certain merit to having people so hands-on, and because Lifespan's lift it sounds like Lifespan's lift is going to be so heavy on this. A lot of the questions, I thought it was pretty telling. A lot of the questions in EDM's interview, the gentleman Chris kept sort of deferring to Lifespan to answer.
Yeah.
So to me, it seemed like Lifespan's lift is going to be pretty heavy. And if they're fully remote from Ohio, I mean, that's just a little bit of a concern. However, what these references had mentioned was that there didn't seem to be any sort of conflict. Just from my own personal experience, I know how difficult it is to work remotely with consultants. Oftentimes I find that the best, most productive meetings are in person. But that's just me speaking from personal experience.
I can second that, Andrew.
I would just say what I was going to say before, Andrew. spoke, and I'll add to that. But I think Abacus, although they didn't have the lifespan specific senior, they talked a lot about the universal design, which seemed to encompass all of the senior center issues along with like everybody issues. So that I was kind of happy with. And then kind of on Andrew's, it seems like EDM and lifespan seem to have a very good working relationship. So it's so hard. I read them all over a couple times, and I can't really say I don't know. It's so hard. You can't go to one side or the other, it seems.
The one thing that I thought was very interesting is when we asked both groups and got different responses relative to the combination of a safety complex with a senior center. That was really interesting because Abacus was like, yep, multi-purpose complex, we can do that. And EDM and lifespan, I guess more lifespan, right? They're like, you really want to be careful about combining. It may actually scare some people away because they don't want to be there when teenagers are there. You know, that kind of thought. And I'm like, oh, yeah. And the safety thing with, the vehicles in and out. We've talked about that in past meetings for sure. But that was quite interesting, the differences in responses to that same question.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that, Audrey. I was more impressed, I think, with lifespan, really understanding in depth some of those concerns. I mean, they've worked with other groups in the building, like at Hadley, they worked with the library and wasn't the VA, but whoever they had to work with to come up with good solutions. I thought it was an American Legion, I think. And I really felt that lifespan really had a good in-depth understanding of really the needs of the seniors. It's just my impression.
I just want to clip. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Maureen.
I just want to say that relative to what you just said, Janet, I think that the detail that they provided around the seniors, obviously they have experience with what is an accommodation that's needed. But I wasn't really that impressed with that answer about the public safety and the seniors. I thought it was just a little far-fetched, their explanation about the guns and this and that. I mean, the decision about whether to have these together, has to be based on our community and funding and a lot of other things. I mean, I just thought that it was, I don't know, I felt that it was, a strongly worded answer for a circumstance that I thought took a lot more thought. That's just my opinion.
Well, generally, the reality is that anybody who gets hired is going to have to think of all of those factors anyways, right? I appreciated the amount of thought that went into it, but I'm just sort of on the same page with Rainey. It just seemed sort of actually I'm kind of torn. I appreciated the amount of detail that they went into, showing us that they can and have thought about all of these different factors before. I thought that was pretty impressive. And then the story about the guns was a little bit far-fetched for my taste, but I think that was just them trying to relate to our unique issues and saying that they can solve any given problem.
I've just heard on both sides of this feasibility study, both the public safety and also the senior. I've just heard so many people give feedback around, well, it shouldn't be next to a school. Well, our fire station, by the way, has been next to a school for years called Larrabee. Like it shouldn't be next to the park. It shouldn't be next to the senior center. It's like, I've just heard all kinds of things, and the whole point of this feasibility study, I hope, is to help us answer a lot of questions around what site, what bubble, what location, how far back, like all of these things should be methodical and not, entirely public opinion.
I totally agree with you, Maureen. And I guess we need to really focus on what's our goal. Our goal is the feasibility study, not necessarily the design. You know, we heard a lot of actual senior center design things to think about from lifespan, which is awesome. But it's really, our goal is a feasibility study, right?
Right,
Right, correct.
right.
Yeah, and I don't say that they convinced me that we shouldn't do a complex. It just says kind of what you just said, Rini, is that we have to be methodical about how we do it. So I interpreted their comments maybe a little bit differently, and that there's a lot to consider. I mean, if that's what we decide as a town, that's the best thing to do, then we have to find out how do we make it work. And so I just, it didn't make me say, okay, we can't do that. It made me say, yeah, there's a lot to think about with placements and buildings. But yeah, that may be the next committee.
I think that there's pluses and minuses to both. Obviously, as a senior or anybody, you wouldn't want to be sitting having a conversation outside and have somebody brought in handcuffs. But on the other hand, it also would be nice, I think, to have them, seniors and police, fire, have that close, relationship. Amazon delivery with the dog.
But I think if you think, we're saying at least 7 acres if we were going to have a complex. So there could be different entrances, there could be separateness, but nearness enough if we wanted to have, community police day or whatever, have people and the fire, we could have them at the center. It's a possibility, but I think, as everyone else said, that we have a lot to consider.
We didn't really have any criteria that we established as far as the references, right? So I'm just wondering if, maybe Audrey, Libby, and Andrew can say a word or two about, what did you hear in the responses that, was a real check mark? And did you hear anything in the responses? I mean, they were also positive. I don't think I heard a single negative thing other than maybe some subcontractors in Hadley, and they weren't even sure if that was the architect or the construction company. But that was the only negative thing I heard. So I'm just wondering if you heard anything that was really, that was.
But I think it's very difficult to go on public record and give a negative comment.
Yeah.
And there's issues with it, potentially. I didn't get that sense that anybody was even hedging around either of the firms. They're all positive.
I just want to go back one more time to the safety complex thing. As long as the senior center is separate, even if it's on the same land, we're not going against the requirements of the will, correct?
Right. I mean, we're just, this again is a feasibility study for monies to build the senior center. Right.
Right. No matter where, no matter what. Okay, good.
It couldn't be near anything, or there were no stipulations like that. It's just,
it couldn't be a combined building.
Right. The money was donated for a senior center. Will be donated for a senior center.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's we can speak with the legal side, but anybody else see anything differently than that? Ed, did you see? I know you're multitasking, but as far as the monies from the will was specified to build a new for a study for a new senior center, and the money for a new senior center, but not necessarily a combined building with something else. But I don't know if there's anything in there that precludes that from happening.
I haven't seen anything. Probably the only thing I'd keep in the back of my mind is, let's say we were interested in combining the two when we're going to buy 12 or 15 acres or 20 acres or whatever. And I would probably be cautious of, in that particular case, using all the monies that were given from the will to purchase property that might have, more than one on it. But other than that, I see no reason to think, if it was not a combined building, but maybe two separate buildings or whatever on one site, that can't be done.
But as long as the money goes to the senior center, that money would be used to build that particular building, not to build.
Correct. Exactly.
Audrey.
The only wording in there is they do use the word separate senior center. So as long as we keep that in mind,
Yeah.
No.
Separate building, separate senior center. Yeah.
Right.
Good point. Good point. All right. Any other comments? Libby, sorry.
Yes. So I think the thing I'm struggling with the EDM team is that the group, the company that we really like, Lifespan, I mean, I know they're not the prime. And so that's what I'm struggling with, is that they're a sub to another firm. And the reason this other firm has such good quals is because of Lifespan. Have they done are any of their projects that they listed for senior centers don't include Lifespan? My concern, not concern even, what I'm struggling with is that they're not the prime consultant. I mean, our contract is not with Lifespan. It will be with EDM.
Mm.
So EDM could go, Lifespan could go kaput and we would have no, there might be some, repercussions or something, but I don't know. Andrew, what's your take on that?
I'm wondering if there's a world that we can, if we choose to go with Abacus, obviously we really like Lifespan. If we can suggest or ask that they engage Lifespan as a sub-consultant, as a respond, or if they were to be awarded the contract. Legality wise, I don't know how that works, but to my earlier comment, I'm a little bit concerned about that as well. EDM had mentioned that they were also doing a fire or a public safety complex somewhere else in Western Mass, and they had hired another consultant for that. So to me, it sort of seems like the firm in general is just sort of like a master of none type scenario, or not a master of none, that's the wrong wording, but just sort of like a lot of their heavy lifting is done by a lot of their consultants, which, is fine. A lot of places choose to go that route just to get the body of work. I'm a little bit torn on that as well. I think, I've made that comment before of this is a bit of a concern to me, and especially working remotely is from Ohio is concerning, at least for me.
Can I just put my little, I know I don't get to vote, but I just want to give you my view on this. So I did go out to the Boston area, and that travel back and forth isn't that great. It's still a distance. I think having them in Western Mass makes a huge difference. We're not reinventing the wheel. They've been building senior centers for the last 20 years. They've been refining them. They've been,
Who is they, Joan? Just so when you say
senior
they.
center builders in general. I don't have any contractors.
Okay.
I'm just saying that I was involved with the building 15 years ago in Agawam.
Mm-hmm.
In that 15 years, things have changed. They've been improving senior centers. So we're not reinventing the wheel. So I agree. Either one could give us a wonderful feasibility study. I think having actual buildings that we've been into that are nearby, I think that's a plus. I know, that's my take on it. I probably have been into 100 senior centers.
Joan, you went to didn't you say you were going to go to a senior center that Abacus had built or some kind of?
That all didn't happen because that building wasn't built. It was in Lincoln, and it was not built. It was just a feasibility study, and I misunderstood. So I guess Randolph was the one I should have gone to, but I didn't make that clear. So I've not been to a building that Abacus designed. So I tried, but it wasn't built yet. But anyway, that's my view, is that the senior centers that have basic needs, you know, the parking, the storage, the spaces, there's basic needs. As long as we can find the right land or space for it, I think either architect will do a great job. I feel more comfortable with something we've seen or been into in Western Mass.
Can I clarify something about the feasibility study versus the actual contract to build the building? So I'm assuming that the feasibility study will focus heavily on the different sites and the preliminary wetlands assessment and a bubble diagram of how the location will actually sit on the site, you know, perhaps recommendations for square footage, but the details that Lifespan provided in terms of the design of the senior center, does that come in the feasibility study or does that come in the building of the center?
I think it's a little bit of both.
Yeah,
So
that's what I was going to say too.
a lot of the, not a lot, but some of the issues that we've been pinpointing are just things that are going to be figured out in the feasibility study, right? When it comes to building an overall building, obviously that feasibility study feeds into what the overall building is going to generally look like. It's already been approved by, assuming that it goes into the building phase, it's already been approved by the town. So you're going to have a general knowledge of overall massing of the building, programmatic requirements, things of that nature. Things that sort of stand out to me as challenges, and this is sort of where I take a step back and try to examine who can, these are challenges that I see moving forward, and this is sort of how I've been basing my decision is the first and probably the primary challenge is public support. If you have sort of EDM and Lifespan pitching their feasibility study or working with the community to sort of develop something that looks like a building on a suitable site that everybody can buy into and taxpayers can vote on, that's great. It seems to me like there may be a little bit of a disconnect with maybe like the younger population of Southampton who are also going to be buying into this process with, their ideas or their tax money or what have you. That's where I think Abacus would benefit to not just having online surveys, but actually engaging the community through design charrettes and things of that nature, something that I think I had asked them in the interview process. I feel like if the community is more hands-on and more directly engaged, it's going to be a better process. At least that's, sort of my opinion. Knowledge of area, EDM far outweighs Abacus in that respect. They're more local, whether it's, through the Pittsfield office or even in Northern Connecticut, they're just proximity wise, just a bit closer. The drive is horrible, whether you're coming from Eastern Mass to Western Mass or vice versa. I-90 or even Route 2 are not great, and I can tell you that firsthand. The tertiary thing that I had considered too was overall architecture. And as a feasibility study, we don't necessarily need to be thinking about the building, but images that these firms produce are going to help gather public support for whether or not this thing moves forward into an overall building. And to me, at least, Abacus sort of had the leg up on EDM in that respect. I thought their images were a bit more well put together. They were more of a representation of this is what an actual building could look like. Some of the images that EDM had shown were general sort of like elements input into Photoshop, which are great for just a general idea about things, but don't necessarily convey the aesthetics of the project accurately. Things like that. Another thing that EDM had mentioned in their presentation was you don't design a building to last for 20 years. You design a building for much longer, and at least 50 years, right? So I found that a little bit ironic, just in my taste, because the examples of the architecture that I had seen from EDM were already dated as they were built. So that's just me, not, take that with a grain of salt, if you will. Other people, I'm sure, enjoy the aesthetics of their buildings, but that's just sort of my own opinion. And we do need to consider how the building is going to look through the feasibility study, because ultimately it's going to get to a point where we need public approval to move forward with this thing or scrap it. So those are the kinds of things that I've been looking at as I've been just sort of developing my own opinion. Again, I'll repeat the same thing. In either case, we're going to get a great feasibility study from either firm, just in their general knowledge. So that's just my 2 cents.
Darcy.
I just also have a question, like in my thought process and what everybody else's thoughts were, where it is a feasibility study and we have a lot of, properties. It seemed like, from my recollection of the interviews, that Abacus did have a quicker response to we can rule that out quickly. And I don't remember EDM's, and I don't know if maybe they didn't bring that up. But how is everybody's thoughts on somebody on one of the groups being able to, by their experience, be able to rule something out rather than waste time? And I don't, waste time probably isn't the better word, but being able to see like a quick reason rather than spending time on a property and then saying, you know what, this really doesn't work. Where we're on a time schedule, and if by chance we get narrowed down too much, and then we can throw something else in there to the mix, or if that's even a bit able to be done.
So you're saying you heard that from Abacus?
Yeah, I believe, and I'm sorry, because I listened to everything so many, it's kind of, they all blend, but yeah. I remember them saying, and I believe it was Abacus. That's why I'm kind of asking everybody else's opinion.
It's funny because I remember EDM saying kind of like having a very quick chart, whether it's green, red, or yellow, and being able to eliminate certain properties pretty quickly that weren't going to meet, the basic needs. And maybe I missed it on Abacus, and let's get other people to weigh in. I just remember seeing a very quick chart from EDM on that. So, but like you said, it kind of starts to blur together a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they both had pretty strong decision-making matrices in their presentations.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. Thank you, Andrew.
I'm grasping at something that'll separate the two because I like them both.
I mean, I the unfortunate part is that they don't have a center, and Abacus hasn't had a building in the area that we could go visit prior to even forming this committee. So I think to those of us that were on kind of like the subcommittee for the COA, we got to see a couple locations that were, we fell in love with, I think, early on before this committee was even formed. But to have other firms come up and be able to do something similar or better was never crossed my mind until we have to narrow this down to one, because we cannot go wrong in my unprofessional opinion with either choice. So
yeah, I have to agree with Andrew as far as, in order to make this go forward, we really need to sell it to the whole population. And a picture goes a long way. It really does. I mean, that's my job in my world is the presentation side, and 3D animations, whatever you can provide the customer is a huge selling point. So it was interesting that EDM didn't seem to have that capability, because I would think that most companies these days would. And Abacus, clearly all of their presentations were top notch as far as visual.
Mm-hmm. And I think it is going to be a big uphill battle getting to the next.
Especially with two of them
going on, right? Yep.
Right.
Anybody else have any last thoughts before we look for some kind of motion from the committee?
I think that when I'm listening to people talk about like EDM with, architects being in one location and engineers being in another one, and then their subcontractor being out in Ohio. And I think one of the references it said about Abacus that, Dave Eisner came up all the time, and then Julia, or, it just seemed like when we asked the, Abacus, who we'll be dealing with, it would be either one of us and then either one of the project managers that was on the screen there. So somehow I just get the feeling that EDM is a little bit spread out. Not that they don't do a good job coordinating, but I just feel like it'll be a tighter group. That's just my sense.
Okay. Anybody have anything additional to add, or would anyone like to make a motion at this point?
Something I didn't really think about till now. Did Abacus have like more country looking buildings? I remember theirs were more modern looking, and I can't remember. I actually didn't even think about that till it was mentioned about the public, because I think in this area, my guess would be most people wouldn't want a really modern looking building versus something that more is suited towards the country setting. Maybe modern amenities, but not a modern exterior design.
And I don't know how much influence, we would have as a community on that. I would think we would have some, feedback or input onto making sure it fits into if we can't get a Dunkin' Donut to fit into our environment, we need to make sure our senior center fits into the feel of our community, especially when we're trying to sell it to everybody. It needs to be, something that fits in with the feel of a Southampton, right? So I don't know. I'm not the engineer though, so I don't know if anybody else from that experience.
As a community, I think we would have a lot of say in the overall aesthetic of the building.
I think the architects can design, well, this is my assumption, they can design to any desired look. They might have been designing a, all glass building somewhere in a fancy location, but they could probably also, and I don't remember from what Darcy's saying from the interviews and the presentations, which ones I like better, but I think they probably have that capability.
Yeah, I think dealing within 495 versus outside of 495 or outside of 91, it's a different need. So we can either get a motion for one or a motion to vote on both. Do we have anyone who would like to make a motion? Because we do have to make a motion.
One last thing.
No. Yes, Audrey, yes.
If I remember right, and correct me if I'm wrong, the schedule for completion would, and again, I don't want to muddy the waters, but EDM seemed like they had better delineation with milestones for their schedule. Did Abacus have that as well, or did I miss it? Need to find my...
I think they probably did have it.
I think they both committed to finishing it within the timeline, and I think both references said that they were very timely, if not early on,
At a time, right?
Good point.
Yeah, the references, did support that. Because one thing for them to say this is the timeline, and then another thing for the references to confirm that they were actually adhered to the timeline, if not earlier. So it doesn't seem like a concern for either one of them in my mind. So back again. Do we have a motion for one or for both and to take a vote? No secret ballots.
What do you mean by the motion for both?
Well, we could vote on, you give us who you're voting for, or somebody make a motion on one of them and we vote yay or nay for that particular firm.
It doesn't matter.
It's the same answer, right?
Right.
So whatever you're most uncomfortable making a motion on, I think is what it is. So, but
Can I ask a question? Is Ron the only one who's not here that's on this committee?
yes, because there's 6 of us voting, and
Okay.
he can make number 7. Ed and Joan are
Ex officio, non-voting members.
I know, it looked like a small committee all of a sudden, right? For when it comes down to voting.
Evenly split committee. I mean,
So I make a motion that we hire Abacus to do the feasibility study for our senior center.
Okay, do we have a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
Okay, Rini seconds. Okay, so everybody take a deep breath because I'm running down the lineup. And you know who's been first, Libby?
Aye.
Yay or
Aye.
nay? Aye, okay.
Yay.
Aye. Darcy?
Yay.
Audrey?
Aye.
Rini?
Aye.
Andrew?
Aye.
4-0, okay. And Janet? Aye. So it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in favor of Abacus.
I just think we can't go wrong. I mean, when I think about their credentials early on, what Andrew was mentioning, I just think that they're
Awards, yeah.
and I appreciate your comments about public support too, because it probably is the biggest thing. And I think that I feel like they would really be helpful in selling this to the point of hiring a company to build it.
Yeah. Okay, so we have a decision. Great. Thank you, everybody. Now we have a meeting tomorrow. As you know, we have a joint meeting with the select board. So where we make our recommendations to them for their final approval, correct, Ed? Has been
Correct.
approved by the select board after that. So I'd just like to talk a little bit about what have they received, Ed, at this point?
Don't ask me a hard question to remember.
We received the proposal.
They got each proposal and the original RFQ.
Okay, so the presentation they've received, their presentation to us?
Yes.
Yes, that's in there. Yeah.
Okay, so I guess I'm trying to get a sense of, what kind of questions that they may come up with or what we want to cover. I think we need to cover our timeline a bit. The process we've gone through to come to this decision, our vote, which is a strong vote in favor of Abacus. The hardest part was coming up with the motion to eliminate one. And that's always a good sign, I think, when we're that strong on both of them. Ed, do you have any suggestions as to what we want to make sure we cover, tomorrow? I think
you want to cover the process that you went through with the 2 interviews, and then the follow-up process of reaching out to those 10 communities or whatever for references. And I
think we'll also touch base on the scoring that we did originally to narrow it down to the 2.
Sure. Yeah.
Not in a lot of detail, but
not in a lot of detail. I think most of the detail should be probably, of how you've gotten from the 2 to the 1. being advocates and, why this committee thinks that they are the most advantageous firm that's being recommended to select board to enter into a contract with for the feasibility study.
So what I'd like to get input from this group as to what comments from today would be key to include in tomorrow's meeting to the select board.
Public support.
Yes, Andrew's whole, talking about the engagement process, et cetera.
Right.
No.
The fact that certainly that Abacus seems to be more, I mean, they're not all in-house. I mean, some of their engineers, they pull in from outside cost estimators, but the key design firm is not, is separate. So I don't want to talk negatively. I don't want to talk negatively necessarily about EDM during the process, but just the all-encompassing I'm just trying to come up with a word. Andrew, you're the word guy.
What a distinction. I think we can touch on their body of awarded work. I think speaks volumes about the firm that we've chosen.
Good.
We can talk about adherence to the schedule. Which would have been relevant for either firm, but speak about the references, how I tried to reach out to communities that obviously they gave a list of, I think, 15 references. I tried to reach out to the ones that had been involved. There were 4 senior centers in communities of a similar size. We can touch on that.
They did Holyoke, didn't they?
Well, they didn't do, I don't think.
Not the senior center.
They're
doing a housing
at the moment on a housing project.
Okay. I guess my point being there is that they do come out to Western Mass.
Right.
I think that just that it, from what everybody said, it was, advantageous to, like you said, have the main designers and decision makers in the same office.
Yeah. For me, that was it.
And be, employed by the firm primarily.
Okay.
I'm just re-looking at the select board reading packet, and we do have it might be useful to just refer to a couple of the pages of the actual proposal, things that stood out. I think people have mentioned about the maps. So I don't have a recommendation on which pages, but it might be useful to kind of refer to some pages that stick out.
And maybe when we talk about
design.
Yeah, I mean, they both talked about universal design pretty heavily, but Andrew, you want to, like the charrettes and things like that, and that's part of the outreach and what they brought together in their proposal, right? That was so critical.
Yeah, that plays into the community engagement aspect of what we're really trying to hammer home to the town select board. So I can touch on that, just sort of go into more of like the architect speak of what these things actually mean, if you want me to. Clearly, I don't have a problem ranting for 5 minutes, so.
Can you rant and rave or just rant?
Just rant.
Okay.
Less raving, just ranting.
Very professional ranting though. It's well.
So Andrew has agreed to drive in from the Boston area tomorrow.
Well, we probably can set up a Zoom if that's difficult, Andrew.
No, that's no problem for me. I'm working from home in Central Mass, from my temporary home in Central Mass. So it's not going to be too bad of a commute.
And by the way, people, I go back and forth in Boston a million times. And once you get past 84, it's a breeze.
I'm on the Cape right now.
New York is in Connecticut, people.
It's coming this
On the
way you're
tape right
talking
now,
about?
so, you know.
It agrees going that way after 84, coming this way after 84. Which way?
Hey, listen, you can just catch up on podcasts. It's not a big deal.
So Andrew, you're going to lead the presentation tomorrow?
Sure.
Okay.
So I think there are a couple of presentations first. So Ed, is it going to be like 6:15, 6:30? I mean, you're on mute.
You're on mute, Ed. Sorry.
Okay.
There
Okay.
you go.
Rewind.
I'm taking a quick look at the agenda. I'm thinking it might be closer to 7, but hang on a second.
Yeah, there's the Concom and there's open space and there's somebody else.
Well, there's the bylaws.
No, there's, community preservation, open space and conservation, and then the senior center feasibility committee. So
At least 6:30.
I would say 6. Yeah, probably at least 6:30.
Okay. Oh, so there's the 3. Okay, quarterly.
I think it would be very helpful to just sort of present, because, we've been living this process and I think not everybody there will remember or whatever, to just say, grab your timeline and say, we started here and then this happened and this happened, then we reviewed this, and then we sent for references. And at the points when we get to the point of selecting the 2 finalists, I think then we can go into a little bit more detail about where Abacus, how happy we were with both of them, but how Abacus sort of had a little bit of a leg up. And then why?
Yeah, we've done a lot. I mean, I
Yeah.
agree. We should mention that. I mean, it's been a lot of work that's been done and accomplished in a short
Yeah.
period.
For a while.
Yeah, I agree.
Since April, since we first kind of met. So
Right.
Now the fun begins.
Yeah.
that now the fun begins.
Yeah.
It's all
I'm gonna have to switch to audio because I had to UMass, but I'll be joining on my phone. Okay. So see you later.
Thank you, Rini.
Thanks, Rini.
Thanks, Rainey.
So I'm happy to talk about the process to date and then hand it over to Andrew. And certainly anybody who has anything to add should feel free to come up to the podium and speak. This is not a 2-person committee by any means. So if we miss anything or say anything that might need to be clarified, everybody should be comfortable coming up. Okay.
I have one quick question relating to the insurance. Abacus was the one firm that didn't present the correct insurance. Are we intending to ask them to see if they can just provide it?
Well, they would have to sign a contract and provide all that information to us.
Okay. Okay.
So at what point, so we get it approved tomorrow by the select board, and I don't see any reason that it wouldn't be. And then you would reach out from your office to both firms and share the results.
Yes. And then we have to enter into negotiations with Abacus on the fee. And like I say, we would have to sign a contract with them.
We had a date in the RFP where we needed to sign it by.
Right. Was that the 16th or was that the 26th? I'm trying to remember in the contract now.
Well,
Or did it have no 6 in it at all?
16th was the response to the RFQ, but the contract signing wasn't.
hang on.
We had to let them know by the 16th. So
I'm looking for the RFQ.
yeah, I happen to have it here. Get to the page that it's on.
There, execute contract, September 22nd.
Oh, 22nd. Okay.
Yeah. Submit designer recommendation to the awarding authority, which is the 16th. So we're doing that before. So we're doing that on the 13th, and then execute. That's a little tough. So that's 10 days from today, 22nd. Well, hopefully they don't have any issues or we can negotiate. I mean, they saw the contract, except for the liability insurance. That was my question.
Ed, you're muted again, unless you're not talking to us. Are you talking to us? Okay.
They also, when do we ask them for the fee? We put an upper limit. Andrew.
It doesn't have to be 60, right?
Right.
Correct. We put an upper limit on it. That's part of the negotiations that go along with the contract.
Gotcha.
So in your perspective, Ed, to have a signed agreement executed by the 22nd,
Extremely tight.
but doable.
Like I say, extremely tight. I'd probably say because of the fact they get mailed back and forth, which takes some time nowadays, I'd probably say more realistically last week of September.
So we're already a week behind. But
They can already be working on it. I mean,
Yeah.
they may already be, they indicated, one of them actually indicated they're already looking at things, so.
yeah,
I think that was EDM.
I think that was EDM.
Sorry.
Okay. So hopefully they can, move along, kind of start things before the contract is actually executed then, once they're made aware. So they won't be made aware until the 14th, right?
Correct.
You just muted again. Oh,
Correct.
okay.
Yeah, we can't notify them until after the select board makes a decision. Correct.
So if it's easier for me to drive things back and forth, I'm happy to drive it back. So,
They
The
could come
mail
out.
has been very slow.
yeah, I know.
Come and get it and sign it.
Meet
Yeah,
them
maybe.
halfway in Worcester, yeah.
Or just have them come here and do it. But
That's a really good suggestion.
Well, they get reviewed too, so it's not like a simple get it, sign it.
you mean like legal gets involved?
Yes,
Yeah.
correct.
They're legal? Okay. All right. So hopefully we can do it by the end of September.
Do you email the copy so that they can start reviewing it, or it doesn't only go by mail?
No, yeah, these are huge documents.
Okay.
We could set up a file transfer if we wanted to. Andrew, do you have one through work? File transfer platform? I
Yeah.
mean, I do. I'm just not sure how much I'm supposed to. I think there might be a personal through Procore. Do you use that?
Yeah, we have Procore. We have a couple others as well.
Yeah, I don't know who's supposed to transmit it though.
Yeah, it would probably have to come from the town, have to
Yeah.
get to Andrew some way. So, or,
Right. So
I mean, I don't know if it can be done via Dropbox or something like that, Ed, or not. Is that not official?
No,
Could we overnight it?
we could for an expense.
I mean, it's not that expensive in the realm of things to overnight something.
cheaper than driving it.
That's
With the
true.
gas.
Probably when you figure the cost of gas nowadays.
Right.
Yeah, if it's possible.
Faxing wouldn't work.
What's that?
Fax wouldn't work.
No.
Can we make a motion to overnight it?
A request to overnight it?
Yeah.
You can
Well,
request
can we,
anything you want.
Yeah, I don't know if we have, I mean, we still have a little money left over from our, in the feasibility study part of it, right? If you have to charge us or something.
Right. Well, it would end up getting charged to that piece. So either way.
Where are they located?
That's
Boston.
Rainy.
In
Alston, right?
Alston, yep.
Cambridge, yeah.
It's a nice time of year to go to Cambridge.
I mean,
I'll go.
I have no problem. I have no problem muling it over there.
Can it be?
Yeah,
Go ahead, Rini.
I'd say, I mean, either one of us. I mean, I wouldn't mind. I'll just combine it with a trip to visit family or something.
It wouldn't be ready
So
to go Tuesday night, would it? When Andrew leaves?
No.
No, just asking. Yeah, I mean, if we can get it, the faster we get it there, obviously, if we can get it there in a day, whether it's overnighting it or somebody volunteer to drive it or whatever, we'll figure it out.
Does our attorney need to look at it?
No.
They've already.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I have no problem doing it. I'm coming into the city for work anyways, so it wouldn't, it's actually kind of wrong.
Like I say, the overnighting can be done. So that's probably the most easiest and prudent way of doing it.
Yeah, it's like $50, so it's at the most.
Yeah, I was going to say probably just a little over 30.
Getting cheaper by the minute. So, okay, so we will request that you overnight it, Ed, okay?
Sure.
We can request all we want. Is that what you're going to say?
What's that? You can request all you want. Yes, exactly.
Okay. So are we good with the kind of the flow for tomorrow evening? And again, anybody that wishes to speak, feel free. I mean, we just want, I don't foresee any issues with approval by the select board with the due diligence that this group has done. So I don't see any reason that it will be postponed after tomorrow. So.
Actually, I don't think that, I think we should delegate people to speak. I think having like 6 different people saying different things at different times, I think having a very together presentation, this is what we did, then we did this, then we did this, and it came down to this, and this is what we decided. I just think it'd be much more influential.
Rini, I'm sorry, because you were offline. So I'm going to open it up and go through the process to date. Then Andrew's going to take over and talk about the proposal that we approved. And my only comment was if anybody at the end would like to add something more that we may have left out, that they should feel free to do that. So we are doing what you're saying, but you missed that part because you were switching.
Okay. All right. Thanks. I just heard that last piece about anybody can speak.
Yeah. Let's just get up and have a free for all. No, we know that it needs to be. So I'm just going to kind of review the process from April. And Andrew's going to talk about some of the key parts of the presentation that we talked about, the public outreach and why we chose Abacus. Refer to a couple key points of the proposal since they have the proposal. Should we take copies of the references, or is it kind of a moot point because they're all glowing?
I think it's kind of a moot point. I feel like they were more for our own internal use.
Processing, yeah.
Right.
We'll talk about the awards because I think, and you brought that out too originally when we talked after we met with them, and how impressive from that body of work that is for us to have acknowledged. Then adherence to the schedule, how critical it is, that the design and decision makers are all in the same office. Just comment that the references were very positive. If we want to mention that they're Abacus is currently working on a housing project in Holyoke. So we know that they do work in this area. I mean, if that's necessary, or that question may come up and we have an answer for, have they done work in Western Mass? So that may be one of the only questions that I could foresee. Is there any other question that might come up that anybody can?
I think we should also touch on, regardless of between the two firms, we were confident that whatever firm we picked would be able to work with another firm that would be potentially looking into joining a senior center and public safety complex.
Okay.
I feel like that question is going to come up.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you know if we've had any further responses from Chris's outreach to the people that did not respond to the request to utilize their parcels?
Yes, I'm sorry, but that was just recently. She did hear back from, is it Harmon Keystone? Marmon Keystone, I mean?
Yes, Coleman Realty.
Yeah, the realtor for them. And they said that, of course, they would be interested in probably selling us the property. So and it's just knowing they didn't really clearly state which part of the property, because they have some land for sale, all or part of it. So that would have to be worked out. But we have not heard from the final property owners. There's been some communication with the family, but there hasn't been a yes or no at this point in time from the Moose Brook Route 10 property.
Oh, from Moosebrook, okay.
There was one of the owners recently passed away, so I think that one's probably going to be on hold for a little bit.
Yeah, I think that was some of the feedback, that there was somebody else handling it this time. So, Okay. Any other questions? That was a good question. Thanks.
Yeah, so when's our next meeting after tomorrow night? And what's on the agenda?
It is. We'll have to work on the agenda. Send me your ideas. It may be a meeting, I'm assuming, with Abacus. So we can,
Kickoff meeting.
pardon me?
A kickoff meeting with them.
Yeah, kickoff meeting with them. So we can look at some dates. So if they get it back to us, if there's time in the first week of October to get this started, is that, or should we, give us room to make sure we get assigned in back? I mean, we'll have to depend a little bit on them to, in their schedules, but.
Right.
Wednesday is the only day that's really bad for me.
Okay, so we'll avoid that day. So that first week of October, does anything?
Thursday morning from 9 to 11 is not good.
Okay, so if we tried to like a 12:30 on Thursday, or a 12:30 on Thursday, the 6th. Yom Kippur is Wednesday, so we wouldn't want to do that anyway.
That's in person.
Pardon me?
In person.
I would hope so, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, obviously. Okay, that's fine.
How does everybody look for the 6th?
Hold on a sec. I have to check my work schedule.
Yep.
That's open for me.
Yeah, looks okay for me.
So noon, is noon okay?
Yep.
Yep, okay for me, yeah.
Okay. And Darcy, you said the 6th is good for you?
That's good for me too, yes.
Okay. All right. And we'll hope to meet with Abacus. So the agenda, we'll take a look at, I'm going to take a look at their proposal presentation and see what their timeline said with that first meeting and what they wanted to accomplish. And we can take a look at that. If anybody has any feedback and you want to just send me directly, individually, something to include, please let me know. Okay.
Yeah. Write myself a note.
Okay.
So when do you need this by? The information to include in the agenda?
Well,
The prior week?
probably by the end of the previous week.
Previous week. Okay.
So by the 30th. Okay. Anything else before we adjourn today? So it's October 6th around noon, if it works for Abacus. So hopefully we'll get confirmation on that later this week, hopefully.
Right.
I know Joan left a message that she had to leave, so
Yeah.
if everybody didn't see that. All right. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion.
Darcy, do we have a second?
Okay.
Okay, Libby. All in favor, Libby,
Aye.
Darcy,
Aye.
Audrey,
Aye.
Rini,
Aye.
Andrew,
Aye.
and Janet, aye. Okay, great. Thank you all for a terrific job. It was a hard decision, obviously. So thank you all very much.
You all
Thank-
did a great job with it.
Thanks for your guidance,
Thank you all.
Ed, throughout the process as well. So take care.
Take care.
Yeah,
Have a good
bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.